Hi, my dear Astro family. Today I wanted to speak to you about Pluto for a few reasons. One of the reasons is because Pluto is moving into the sign of Aquarius, and I believe Pluto has got a real bad reputation. So I just wanted to summarize the meaning of Pluto a little bit so that we might not be afraid of it and we might make peace with Pluto if we understand the process, what he actually does to us. Secondly, there is going to be a Pluto-Sun conjunction. So obviously that hasn't happened since the 18th century in the sign of Aquarius. So it's a big topic. And thirdly, the reason why I wanted to talk about is because recently I'm just getting clients where I can talk about Pluto and some of the combinations to the natal chart, at least for an hour. It's really, I'm seeing plenty of people getting drawn into a reading where Pluto becomes the major topic. So I thought I would prepare a bit of 15-20 minutes presentation on Pluto so we can make peace of it. Now, before we start that, I'm going to be having some really cool courses and webinars coming up. So if you are interested, I'm just going to put kind of like a screenshot of all the webinars and courses that are coming up. One of them is going to be about how to work with solar returns. Now, previously I made one about solar returns, but this is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to be doing one on the dispositor of your sun sign and how to work with that. What is the most important planet of your chart? It's not always the ruler of your rising sign, by the way. I'm going to be doing a course on house rulers in houses. And I've done recently one on Saturn as the Lord of Karma. So that is also a really cool one. I think people really enjoy that. But without any further ado, let's get started on Pluto. So, one of the things, first of all, if you have any point around 0 to 4 degree of the fixed signs, so basically Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, or Scorpio, then you are going to go through a major transformation and you're going to start feeling it in 2024. So here I would be looking at some of your angles and the 7 visible planets. And maybe one of the major asteroids. So I'm talking about Ceres, Pallas Athene, and any other asteroids you tend to be using. I use Ceres, Pallas Athene, Juno, and Vesta the most, but I encourage you to look up yours. But those 4 definitely must be paid attention to. Now, I've made multiple videos about Pluto, such as Pluto and the counterpart of it, which is Orcus. I made a video about Pluto in the sign of Aquarius. I made one on Pluto's cycle, for example, Pluto transiting certain houses with it, with Sweaty. So you can find loads of material about Pluto on my YouTube channel. You just need to be checking them out. But this video is going to be more of a summary or a psychological breakdown of how to work with Pluto. And I want to be focusing a little bit more on the positive sides of Pluto. Now, for example, the reason why this came to my mind is because recently I got a text message from a friend of mine. And he said to me, Victor, is the Pluto-Sun conjunction really good for Aquarius? Because I only want to be happy, finally. And my reply was, well, it only depends how much you make of it. And then the reply was, well, things are not always controllable. And my reply was, you cannot always control everything. There are certain things that you cannot control, and those might need to be gone, or you need to be experience them in certain ways. And then he said to me, yes, but I want happiness and I want Pluto to bring me happiness. And I said to him, you need to be working for happiness. None of the planets are just going to bring you happiness out of the blue into your life. Sometimes you have to get out of bed and you need to be at the right place at the right time. Often that's a Jupiterian meaning, right? But you had to do something for it. You had to get out of bed and you had to be somewhere. So the same principle applies to Pluto as well. We're going to have to go through certain elements of transformation. Something needs to be gone in our life, and then it has to be replaced with something better. You know, in ancient astrology, planets are classified as malefic and benefic planets. I'm a little bit concerned about this, to be frank, as planets never cause harm in our lives. We are making fatal mistakes. We create problems in our lives. And most importantly, the reason things are not changing in our lives because we get stuck due to fear, due to being paralyzed by something, and so forth. And I want to talk about these two words in a very short while about fear, death, and paralysis. So that's what happened with a friend of mine. And then he replied to me, yes, but for example, I lost my dad, and that just doesn't give me happiness. And I said to him, were you happy before your dad had passed away? And then he said to me, no. So I was like, why are you bringing up the death of your father? It just didn't add to your happiness, right? So it's kind of like sounded like he was trying to say that, you know, the loss of his dad is something that caused him unhappiness. And then I asked him what happiness meant for him. And guess what? He said, well, happiness, I want everything. So sometimes, again, I want everything. That's a bit of a Jupiterian matter as well. And that's a bit of a danger. Happiness means probably different to everyone, but we cannot or we shouldn't be wanting everything at the same time, because it means, for me at least, that we are not willing to work for it. Happiness should be entering our lives gradually. That's my belief system. Probably you have got yours, and probably that's right also. So we are not going to be arguing about it. But I had to learn the hard way as well that, you know what, we cannot have everything at the same time, but we can invite them in though. And that's the most important part. Now, the other thing which I want to mention here is that what happened was that Pluto got discovered in 1930. And they decided that Pluto was going to be the ruler of Scorpio. And that's great. No issue with that. Let them do it. Do I believe that Pluto is the ruler of the Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio? No, actually, I don't. And I'm going to be proving that in the upcoming week, actually, because I'm going to be talking about why Uranus cannot be the ruler of Aquarius. There are multiple reasons for that. And I would be able to make a webinar on that in regards to Pluto and Scorpio as well. So then they decided that Pluto and Scorpio are the same. First of all, sorry, just my phone dropped. First of all, a planet and a sign might show similarities, but they shouldn't. Actually, let me rephrase that. They must not be mixed. They are not the same. They might have got some archetypical meanings that are similar, but they are not the same. And that's really important. Now, let me just give you an example. Pluto is associated with wealth and power, but Scorpio is a water sign. It's a fixed water sign. So it is not necessarily connected with money, okay? This is more about inner richness. Inner richness, as in, if you just think about Jupiter being the exalted ruler of Cancer, and Cancer does talk about richness. Jupiter does talk about richness. And the water signs are all about emotions, experiences, and memories. All of the water signs are somehow connected to memories, just in different ways. So, anyway, I don't want to talk about whether Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio or not. You have got your theories on that. I've got mine as well. Both of them are right anyway. So you do the way you want them to do. But my answer is that planets do not make you suffer. They prompt us to make changes. And my friend said, yeah, eventually he said, by the way, that, oh, money is going to make me happy, which is very much of a Plutonian theme, right? Pluto talks about power, money, and wealth. So if we want to be happy, we just need to work for it. That would be the bottom line. So I felt like it was really a Plutonian conversation. And I've noticed that we tend to be making loads of excuses around the Plutonian topics in our chart, such as especially the house position. Guess what? Because we do not want to change. If Pluto would be the modern ruler of Scorpio, then the explanation would be that we get stuck in our comfort zone. And at one point, we need to be forced to get out of it. And of course, what usually Pluto does, that it knocks everything down around us. Actually, first, Pluto will reveal what is about to come. So it doesn't come as a surprise. That's Uranus. Pluto comes and it reveals to you, maybe sometimes in a shady way, though. So it's not that obvious that what to expect, but you will get topics from Pluto with the first touch. Remember, Pluto transits last for about, 2 years. And most likely it will be hitting a personal point in your chart at least 5 times. So that's a big one. The first one is usually a reveal point. And then maybe it reveals it again. And then after, it's going to be knocking things down around you because you didn't get out of your comfort zone. What it's going to do is it's going to take things away from you. So let me give you an example. For example, I had a client today, and then Pluto was about to square Saturn, and Saturn was the client's career choice. So career department. And then this is basically what we spoke about for about a good 75 minutes, by the way. And then, I kind of broke down the promises of that constellation. I said to her, listen, either you're going to start building something in regards to your visibility. Maybe you're going to build up a YouTube channel, and then you're going to do some type of, cooking, for example. Anyway, I'm not going to go into specifics why this was the topic. Or eventually, the possibilities are that Pluto is going to bring you issues into the workplace. And then I said to her, what happened in 2023 March? Is that when maybe you got promoted? And she said, yes. Okay. Did any restructuring happen in the company or started, or are there any talks about it? Yes. Why? Because Pluto is going to go back into Aquarius, and guess what? It's going to be touching your career planet. It means these topics are going to come back, but probably in a more difficult way, because you have been in your comfort zone somehow. You didn't start the true meaning of because Pluto is about soul searching. So this aspect is asking the client to really become passionate about their career. So one of the first questions I had from her, or asked her, if she was really passionate about the job she did. And she said, I like it, but it's not really what I want to do in the long run. But this is telling me that Pluto squaring her career planet eventually will bring toxic situations at the workplace. It will be bringing, for example, a controlling boss. Maybe they're going to start cutting numbers, Saturn, trying to cut numbers because they want to save costs of the company. Maybe they're going to be building down the numbers of employees and so forth. Or maybe we are going to be attracting, I don't know, plumbing issues at home. because the opposite house is the fourth, right? Maybe we're going to have a bigger expenditure because the bathroom is falling apart and so forth. So we're going to start experiencing these type of conversations. So Pluto, the other thing I started thinking about is just because of this example, Pluto and Saturn. Fair enough, Saturn is the career planet in this chart, but Pluto and Saturn do show similarities. So Pluto is the planet of death in modern astrology. But before Pluto, it was Saturn. Saturn was the planet of death. So obviously it's going to start making you think, which one is the real planet of death? Is that Pluto? Is that Saturn? Which one to go with? I mean, first of all, I think there would be slightly bit of difference between these two, okay? So Saturn was the ancient ruler of death due to being the lord of time and karma. So obviously we have got our time allocated in this incarnation. And my English teacher used to say, a good 30 years ago, you never go back from the place where you came out of. And typically people want to go back where they came from. And I'm never going to forget this saying because I think there is so much truth to it. What it means really is a 12th house kind of saying, which is the cosmic womb. And you are protected in the womb. And then you badly want to come out because you are eager to have your experiences. But then you realize how dangerous the world is. And then you want to be going back because it was nicer there. You felt protected. So therefore, what happens is we're going to find some sweet spots in our head that are taking us to La La Land. And then we feel better there. That's what we call as imagination nowadays, or spirituality, or obsessions, because we're going to start taking drugs and all those type of things. Now, think about it. Saturn is the planetary joy of 12th house. And all those topics I mentioned to you is really Saturn, really 12th house topics, right? Obsession, spirituality, and so forth. So Saturn being the ancient ruler of death and Pluto being the modern ruler of death. So I would say, oh, and then, as I said, Saturn has got a planetary joy in the 12th house, the house of ultimate karma. That's the cosmic womb. Plus, 7th house was looked at as the house of death in ancient times, as this was where the sun sets. So basically, we disappear. The rising sign is the beginning of your life. So the descendant is the end of your life. So if Pluto is the modern ruler of Scorpio, the 8th sign, or even worse, because we tend to be saying, oh, Pluto is kind of like the 8th house, then 8th house could not be the death. Maybe that could be the beginning of your old age, but death would be 7th house, because everyone agrees the 1st house is the beginning of life. So the 7th house, which is the opposite, should be the end of life. The 8th house would be the preparation to death. So therefore, now, and then how Saturn connects to that, that's the 7th sign is Libra. And Saturn has got exalted rulership in the sign of Libra. So this is telling me that Pluto cannot be the planet of death in a physical way. This would be talking to you about more to do with regeneration and rebirth. Something to do with the need to shut down something in your brain, something like an inner demon just think about Hades. Hades was immortal, but everyone was afraid of him. No one has mentioned his name because they were afraid to invite him into their lives. So that's how much people were afraid of Hades, the Roman god or the Greek god, Hades. Yes, the god of death in ancient times. So that's one thing just to think about. And of course, I'm not going to argue about Pluto having the ability to bring death into people's life. Okay, I'm not going to say that. Because I think every single planet actually can bring death. Every single aspect can bring death as well, because death is not something that is dependent on aspects. Anything can kill you. You know, you just walk happily on the road and then a car hits you. It can be a sextile, it can be a trine, and so forth. And by the way, death is also connected to fourth house matters, which is the changeover between 2 days. That's the midnight segment of your chart. So one day ends and another starts, pretty much. There is kind of like, obviously, that's something to do, the fourth house is something to do with funerals. And that would be the midnight zone. That's why I'm talking about the changeover between 2 days, calendar days. Of course, we can bring up the topic whether that calendar we use at the moment is the right one or the wrong one. That's another topic. Now, and then modern astrology came around, and then we said that Pluto is connected with Scorpio. So that is the eighth sign. So Pluto rules death. I mean, I think I gave you an explanation that it's arguable. But signs and houses must not be mixed. Same with planets. They must not be mixed. But maybe this is another topic. Another very interesting topic we tend to be mentioning with Pluto as that fear. Saturn is also fear. So which one is the true fear here? Well, I have to go back to the planetary joy of the 12th house again, which is Saturn. And fears, the 12th house is also called as secret enemies. But there is that old saying that the secret enemies are actually us. We are our greatest enemies. That makes sense because the 12th house is right on the doorstep of the first house. And Saturn is about blocking out our own fears. Saturn is known as to be the planet of limitation, the planet of hurdles and obstacles, but also the crystallization of something. So it's kind of like Saturn has got a planetary joy in the 12th house because we've got the ability to name the fear what we've got and then hopefully blocking them out. So this is another thing we should think about. Do we ever see Scorpios to be afraid of something? I mean, Scorpio tends to be coming across a lot stronger than they are. They are called as the ice queens of the zodiacal signs. Obviously, they might be crying inside, but they come across really harsh and really strong. And of course, they are really much about power. But they might be actually afraid of connecting with others. So they might have got trust issues. But which sign is not afraid of something anyway? So therefore, I would not again call Pluto being the ultimate ruler of fear. However, if I had to make differentiation between them two, I would say that Saturn would be the planet of fear that we are aware of, and Pluto would be the planet of fear that we are unaware of. And therefore, we need to do a lot more research with them. Maybe they are a lot more dangerous as well. I mean, Pluto is associated with atom bombs, right? So at one point, that could really blow up. And then it makes a reveal. and the reveal can be quite painful. So then, of course, we can start talking about the Scorpio a little bit more, right? Because traditional astrology says that Scorpio is ruled by Mars. And that would be the feminine expression of Mars. And anyway, there is a sacred meta about this rulership, and I don't want to go into that, but breaking that with some of the modern rulers is a bit of a mistake. However, sometimes the other argument is that we've got 12 signs and there were 12 gods on Olympus. So why are we only using currently 9 or 10 planets? Where are the other two? I mean, there are asteroids, but we demoted them. We decided to demote them. But they could be the rulers of the other two signs. So either we give one specific ruler to each of the 12 signs, or we stop doing this, in my opinion. But anyway, that's another thing. But let's suppose that Pluto is associated with Scorpio. Then it means it's a fixed planet, because Scorpio is a fixed sign. And what it means is that every single fixed sign are learning from the other fixed signs, plus the previous and the next sign. So those are our karmic signatures. So what it means is that, let's say I've got Saturn in Scorpio. So my Saturn is learning from my Aquarius placements, my Taurus placements, my Leo placements, but also learning from Libra and Sagittarius as well. So we are meant to learn from the cross quadrants as well as from the previous and the next sign. Those are our karmic signatures of a planet. Why? Because the signs are based on each other. So there is a psychological development of them. Now, if Saturn is the fear, then it would be the fear that we might be aware of, as I said, and Pluto would be the fear that is somewhere deep down, and we would need to do research to get it out of our system, to get it out of our subconscious. So maybe this would be talking to us about inherited karma or inherited fears that might be coming from generations before. But then if Pluto is the ruler, then what do we learn? I mean, Taurus, it's very much about being in the present, to protect what we have, to find the middle road. Taurus wants to teach Pluto then to have common sense approach. Then Leo, it's very much about to have pride, honesty, to be able to shine, and no need to hide all the time. Now, I doubt that Pluto would not have pride or honesty. Surely there are shining issues. Slightly bit, but I don't fully agree with that either. Just because Pluto is about power hunger. And Pluto will be aware that at one point I need to be shining if I want power, because that's the only way how I'm going to be leading the world. Now, Pluto would be learning from Aquarius then as well. And with that, we need to be learning flexibility, to go towards future, to be among others. Yeah, Pluto might need to be learning that, because at the end of the day, Pluto likes creating power on their own, and they do have issues of sharing. With Sagittarius, we need to learn to trust, to believe, to have a moral code. And from Libra, to pay attention to others and to be able to negotiate with diplomatic skills. Now, so how does Pluto work? As I said, it will reveal and reveal and then destroy things around us, and then finally it transforms. It forces people to confront deep-seated desires and unresolved issues. And maybe it's going to be leading to negative or positive outcomes, but it really depends on your own self-awareness and how much you have worked on yourself. Now, when you've got a Pluto transit, you know what? It comes with upheavals, difficulties, surely. But at the end of it, I usually experience reward, but really painful couple of years beforehand, typically for those who are not embracing the change. Because with Pluto, it's never going to be superficial. It's really about removing the last layer of your skin as well. That's why Pluto is the representation of a snake, right? They get rid of their little fur and whatever, and then they grow new ones. So for me, Pluto is about evolving, letting go of unhealthy behavior patterns, letting go of negative thoughts and lifestyles, letting go of people that are holding us back, and then allowing the change to enter our lives. And then it allows you to go through psychological healing. Sometimes it comes with separation. Sometimes it is about you trying to manipulate others. Sometimes you're going to have to let go of jealous people or just possessiveness. If you are possessive, Pluto will take that away from you. I mean, so therefore, I don't think Pluto is about death, but I do think it's about evolving though. Pluto is the planet of power. Whether you are powerful or powerless, it really depends. Pluto is really affecting your spiritual journey. It's about digging deep into your subconscious, then revealing these hidden little buggers, and then it wants to reshape your psyche. And psyche doesn't want that because it has already built a comfort zone, and that wall needs to be broken down. Now, that's the difficult part of it. But once you allow that Pluto to enter, then it's going to give you greater understanding of how you function, how the world functions, and how the society functions around you. Because if Pluto is the modern ruler of Scorpio, then Scorpio is a water sign. So we are talking about buried emotions, buried desires, and those need to come to the surface. So I feel like Pluto is more to do with the soul's journey rather than death and all those type of stuff, what we say. I think Pluto is the planet of spiritual growth. So going back to that client, it's about the spiritual growth of their career. When I mentioned previously that Pluto was squaring their solar arc career planet. So it's about the spiritual growth of her career department, meaning that finding the true calling of hers, and maybe this is not something that we or she has been doing. You know what? Pluto wants you to explore your beliefs, whether you are convicted about something, to relook at your moral codes. Typically, it wants to strip you away from any of those and putting your ego aside. And it tells you, you know what? Your ego is your greatest enemy. It is holding you back. So get rid of it, or I'm going to force you to get rid of it. And I think that would be the most important part of Pluto. You know, I'm going to give you an example. Imagine that, I don't know, your mom forced you to eat spinach when you were a child. And then when you grow up, maybe you might be afraid of eating in front of others because it causes you anxiety. So often Pluto is connected to trauma as well. And that trauma is a generational matter in a way, but it's going to be causing you frustration, of course, in your current years. But then at one point, Pluto is going to come and make you be aware of them, or is going to be forcing you or trying to get you out of it. In medical astrology, we tend to say that, you know what, when we are sick, it's just the third or second stages of your problem. The last one is death. The third one is when you are kind of chronically sick. So the second stage is just revealing that, you know what, something is not functioning right within the body. And Pluto is the ultimate healer. And when Pluto has to interfere, often actually it brings you medical issues. And that's why it kind of comes across as the planet of death, because there is no other way to wake you up but just to signal somehow within the body. Yeah, Pluto is the planet of manipulation. So yes, Pluto will bring a light to manipulate you, to look at your darker side of your human nature. Fear, you know what came to my mind? Because the fear paralyzes us. What is paralyzing? I mean, paralysis feels like you can't move part of your body the way you want to, no matter how hard you try. So I'm wondering if paralysis is actually connected to, of course, Saturn, because what happens is with paralysis, it's a temporary or a permanent loss of voluntary muscles in your body, anywhere in your body or in a certain region. Well, muscles are Mars. A loss of it is Saturn. So the muscles are restricted. The Aquarius comes to me in the picture because paralysis means that you cannot move something. So therefore you cannot go forward or you cannot go backwards. For example, think about the legs, which we would be using to move forward in our lives. So this is a fear of future, in my opinion, the paralysis. That's how I look at it. I mean, this is a topic most likely we would be able to talk about for a very long time. Not even mentioning that Pluto is considered to be the higher octave of Mars, which I actually tend to be agreeing with. But let me not get into that. I did make a webinar about that anyway, because this is going to be quite a long video. But I hope that some misconception have been changed around Pluto. Remember, we're going to have now the Pluto. And maybe I want to talk about just that for 2 seconds, because we're going to have the Pluto and the Sun conjunction on 29 degree of Capricorn. And then together, they move into the sign of Aquarius within 12 hours apart. So obviously, that is very interesting. So actually the conjunction is happening on 29:59 Capricorn. Obviously, I think it's highlighting wealth and power. It could be something to do with, I mean, with Pluto, it's not always money. It's something which might be intangible as well, though. Okay, but maybe this is great for manifestation. Now, also, this can make us a bit greedy when it comes to power, or we can become ruthless and then we push people aside with it. So an element of selfishness, which might be coming with Sun and Pluto. And of course, the positive side of it could be that, you know what, we want to use our power to empower others or to help others or to make the world a better place. So there is an element of selfishness or selflessness involved with this aspect. It completely depends on you how you're gonna use that, of course. So this is a reflection of what power means to us, how to use our own power, and you might want to be thinking about it. But Pluto is surely about psychology. So the psychology of your long-term goals, or healing yourself at your core. And that would be really, really important also. Now, obviously, it's happening on 29 degree of Capricorn. So we've got something to let go of here anyway. And probably this is something to do with our barriers, our blockages, our fears, the fear of death, the fear of falling into oblivion. And then, as I said, they walk into the sign of Aquarius together. And I mean, they're going to have the conjunction, and the sun is within half an hour. It's going to be in the sign of Aquarius. You know what? So this is a big one for me, surely. And you know what? All of a sudden, we can have this intuition of what can make us powerful, for example, or maybe what is special about yourself, what your special talents are. Now, Pluto spent a couple of months already in the sign of Aquarius last year, right? So this time around, it's going to be a good, what, 7 months, 8 months almost. So that's kind of exciting, you know? And this would be an opportunity to get all those meanings what I've described to you in regards to Pluto integrated into the Aquarian house cusp. The other thing I forgot to mention about that Pluto is also connected to the occult, right? Which is something to do with the hidden meanings of symbolism. So it's about translating something that might not be necessarily clear for you. And it's happening in the sign of Aquarius, right? Which is about future, but also getting together, being on the same wavelength with others and moving forward with something. So it's not just about the future, but doing progressive work on something. Well, guys, I think this is enough. I made a video about Pluto in Aquarius, so it's available for a review if you want to. It was just more about trying to make you love Pluto a little bit more than it is. Thank you, everyone, and see you soon. Bye-bye.